Lloyd Standley and Fran Standley were a married couple living in Glendale, Arizona. Lloyd was 61 years old and Fran was 41. They had been married a number of years and would spend their evenings going out to the bars. Recently, Lloyd had begun to go out by himself. On one occasion, he went out and he didn't come back for a couple of days. This made Fran very angry and very jealous. On the afternoon of March 31st, Fran went to a bar where she met 41-year-old retired Air Force Master Sergeant James Kinchlow. Kinchlow was a married father of 4. He had recently retired and was enjoying more time with his family, with his friends, and even his alone time. Now, Fran was very flirtatious, and while Kinchlow enjoyed the attention, he didn't stay long. As he began to leave, Fran would follow him out to his car, being very touchy-feely, and she asked him if he would meet her later that evening at the Cypress Lounge. Later in the evening at the Cypress Lounge in Glendale, Fran, provocatively dressed, socialized with friends while drinking. Sometime that night, James Kinchlow pulled into the Cypress Lounge and parked his car. He sat in his car for a few minutes and told himself he wouldn't stay that long. Upon entering the Cypress Lounge, he walked over to the bar and grabbed a beer. Fran Standley saw that he had entered the bar and walked over to him and gave him a hug and began to pull him onto the dance floor. He put his drink down. They began to dance, with Fran continuing to be flirtatious while keeping an eye on the entrance to the bar. At some point that evening, while they were still on the dance floor, Fran watched her husband, Lloyd Standley, enter the Cypress Lounge. When he did this, she immediately began kissing James and wrapped her arms around him. It didn't take long for Lloyd to see them on the dance floor, and when his eyes met Fran's, she continued passionately kissing and rubbing James Kinchlow, all while looking Lloyd in the eyes. Lloyd walked over towards them as they were on the dance floor and pulled out a .32 caliber gun and shot James Kinchlow 6 times in the chest. Kinchlow was taken to Glendale Samaritan Hospital where he was pronounced dead on arrival. Lloyd was arrested as he walked out of the bar. Standley said, "Seeing her in another man's arms, kissing and holding her, caused me to do this horrible thing." Lloyd Chester Standley was charged with first-degree murder and was freed on a $25,000 bond. At the trial, Fran Standley testified that she met Kinchlow earlier that day and deliberately lured him to the lounge. And she also lured her husband there so he can see her with Kinchlow. She testified that her husband shot Kinchlow while she was hugging and kissing him on the dance floor. She said she wanted to make him jealous because she was angry at him. She said, "I was mad, damned mad at him. He hadn't been home for 2 days." On July 9th, Lloyd Chester Standley was found guilty of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life in prison. Joan Kinchlow, James's wife, filed a $1.6 million lawsuit against the Standleys for negligence in the death of her husband. The Standleys would divorce in 1979. Lloyd Standley would get out and eventually remarry. I don't know when he was released, but he passed away at the age of 82 in 1995. I was unable to find any information on Fran. Retired Air Force Master Sergeant James Kinchlow was survived by his wife and 4 children. He is buried at the West Rest Haven Park Cemetery in Glendale, Arizona. His wife, Joan, passed away in 2000 at the age of 62, and she is buried next to her husband. This is the location of this Cypress Lounge as it appears today, under a different name, but still a bar. And I'm sure many stories to tell.